Went through my storage unit and I had a couple of these 5-point harnesses that we used on a movie set that are basically brand new. SFI is still current. So we're gonna toss these in instead of the belts that actually come loose as you're driving, which was really scary going down the highway as I'm bouncing around and the belts are coming up. So yeah, we're gonna toss these on. Luckily, these are all basically just bolted to the floor with 14mm bolts, so it's gonna be really easy to take them out, put them back in. And I'll show you exactly where I'm unbolting it to get it in there. There's one there, and there's one there, and then there's one down on the other side, and then one on that corner for the other belt. So we're gonna get those black belts in, looking dialed. So these are the harnesses in question. They are cheap eBay, 2-inch strapping. Like I said, as I was driving, just hitting the bumps and stuff, I would have to tighten down the shoulder straps every 2 miles. So I could only imagine if you actually hit a wall or something, these straps would just get loose and you would just go flying through the windshield. So it's better not to have these. If you go to drift events and you have these in your car, take them out. If you autocross, take them out. If you're driving on the streets, take them out even more. Just get rid of any of these seatbelts that you have. Don't buy them. It's your life. Even a used set of SFI belts that are past their date, as long as they've never been wrecked, use those. So it's safety. It's a stupid thing to do if you get into a small accident and really injure yourself because you cheaped out and got $30 belts that don't do anything. Now the belts that I'm putting in are the old style latch harness, which is absolutely fine. They're just as easy to get into. The cam locks are just easier to get out of. So either one is good. It just kind of depends on your personal preference. So this is one of the lap belts. It's SFI. As you're sitting, this will pull down like that. So if you have an FIA belt, it's gonna pull up from the bottom. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing one of these. So I'm gonna get in the car and I'm actually gonna adjust these things to about where they need to be. And then I will go ahead and toss them in. It's also usually easier to get this side of the belt through the actual kind of hole on the side of the seat. So just keep that in mind. Get the bolt through so I can kind of get an idea of where it needs to be. Oh, what's up, dude? You like safety? You like safety? He's like, where are we going? We going somewhere? The nice part about having a seat that you can actually move is being able to get the lap belts loose by pulling your seat back. So this will loosen them up, you get them on, and so you want to get them tight where your driving position is going to be. So that way you don't have to adjust these. You can leave them as tight as you can get. And you always want the bottom very, very tight down because that's what keeps you from sliding forward in the car. Especially if you don't have a 5-point harness. Where it attaches at your crotch. So yeah, you always want to have the belt and you want to tighten this one first when you're putting it on. Then you do the shoulders and then you get them all tightened up. So this seems like it's going to be pretty good right here. And then I can just back up a little bit, take it off, let them rest outside. Now let's move on to the shoulders. So the belts also do have a left and right, if you could see this. You want them to be together like this because if they're like this, of course, you're never going to get the thing on. You're never going to get it to latch. So just remember they have a left and a right before you actually install them. So also when you're installing the shoulder harnesses, you want to have them adjusted all the way out so that they're at the loosest that they can possibly be, because that's where you want your actual adjustment when you tighten them down. So you want to be able to pull this, especially if you have other people driving your car or anything like that. So once you have that all the way down, then you also need to make sure that your back, the length in the back is the same and or somewhat equal, so that way you can actually get it in there. I'll show you guys how to actually strap these things properly as well once I set the length. So you have it through one time like this. You're going to loop your roll cage around where the hook is. So we're just gonna pretend that's the roll cage for now. You come up again. You go back down through, such as thus, so you have your extra. Then you take that and you go back through again on the back side. And sometimes it can be a little difficult to feed the material through, but that's what really keeps these harnesses from moving anywhere if you do get into an accident. So this is what it should look like once you're all dialed in. It should be wrapped around the front. This is wrapped around the roll cage. And you can see that it's not going to go anywhere. It's impossible for that thing to move now. So that is how you actually mount it to and it'd be the same if I was mounting it to the floor. That'd be the same way that you would mount it if it was long enough for me to attach down to the floor around the roll cage. So that's how you do that part of the belt. Let's toss this shoulder harness in. Okay, so we already got this one installed, and it sits about right there. That's a good length for where I had set the drive. So as you can see, get those nice and even. Can't have on looks like crooked nipples or something when you're got those crooked. Anyway, so those are in straight. They're pretty good to go. So now we got to adjust this to where it's right in front of the roll cage. You want to adjust the silver bar to right in front of the roll cage. So as we went through, you can see the silver bar is facing like this. That comes up and around like so. Pull that up to it, and you toss this in like this. And then that's how you actually get it up to where the roll cage is. Now you don't want any slack right there. That's where you want it to be the strongest. So make sure that your belts are still level. They're good. Then that's when you finish it off. So you can kind of pull it back through a little bit. Give yourself a little slack and some working room. Then you pull it back through. Hold it in place. Cinch it all the way down. That's good. Then you go back through again. Again, kind of move it a little bit to make it a little easier to get that in. This is a weird angle to do this since the camera's right there. And then it's hard to pull right now. There we go. And that is how you make a racing harness work on a roll cage. And like I said, it'd be the same if we were going straight down to the floor with that other mounting hardware. So we got the seat bolted back in. Now I can scoot the chair back, get into position. Get the belts on, ready to go. And they go on this keyway here, and then they go through the hoop, and you pull the latch shut. Now, I can scoot the chair up. The waist belt is super tight at this point. I got a good driving position. Maybe get a little tighter. Then, that's when you actually pull down these shoulder harnesses. And you are not going anywhere now. So this is the proper way to actually set up a harness. If you have a cage, even if you don't, highly recommend using harnesses. They just keep you more planted into your seat, especially if you took my advice and got a racing seat like this, where it actually keeps you in. All right, so I'm gonna toss the other one in, and then we're gonna go over a couple more things that I needed to do with this thing before the event on the 12th. I got one other thing that's gonna make it even safer than it is now. Peep this. So like I said, I have something else to make this car even safer. Mentioned it in my how to go to a drift event video. You can see that here. Fire extinguisher. This thing is literally $12 from Walmart. 12 US dollars. 12 hard-earned US dollars. That will save you from spending another $2,000 or $3,000 if your car catches on fire and you don't get to it in time. Torch your motor and torch all your hoses and burn everything to a crisp. Keep one of these in your car within distance of you. Also remember to get the automotive marine one. You don't want to get one that's not made for a car. It even has a JDM anodized nozzle for all you hot boys out there. You know what I'm talking about? Jeez. I'm gonna figure out where I'm gonna put this and then I'll show you guys exactly where I mounted it. Dialed. One more of those, we'll be super good to go. Alright, so that's underneath the ribbing, so it's not going to affect how the fire extinguisher actually mounts, and it'll zip tie right around the roll cage. But then this way you can pretty much loop it around anything, make a little bracket, drill some holes in a piece of plastic, wrap it around that, just somewhere where you can actually get to it quickly. That should be pretty easy to get off. You just pull that tab and off she goes. All right, I think that's good to go. Safety